What is going on, YouTube? Espresso Shuckle here, and today we are hitting the Reg G ladder with this Palkia, Hearthflame, Ogerpon team. So, what we are going to do here is we're going to slap a choice specs on my Palkia, and we are going to take advantage of the fact that it has raw firepower here. And the nice thing is Palkia's water dragon typing hard resists Kyogres, which will be nice if we do run into the odd one. Now, I have Fire Blast on here instead of Thunder because Steel types could be a little bit of a problem, and Grass types can also be a little bit of a problem. Now, I have the Earth power to get around the Steel types, but I don't really have a good means of getting around Grass types. So we do have the Fire Blast here if we potentially need it. And on top of that, we also have Fire Ogerpon, which means we do have a Fire type Ivy Cudgel. So what better support move to have on Tornadus than Sunny Day? If we need the Sunny Day, we can power up the Fire Blast and the Ivy Cudgel. And on top of that, we can also turn on Flutter Mane's Protosynthesis and give it a speed boost, which will be really nice. It would be kind of funny if I could get a Tailwind off with Tornadus and then have Flutter Mane just go for Icy Wind with the Protosynthesis and just immediately just break a Focus Sash on something and then get a speed drop. So that could be relatively funny if it works. And if it doesn't, well, at least we do have the speed boost. We have a Focus Sash on Flutter Mane so that Flutter Mane can just take some hits that it might not otherwise do. We'll have a little bit of insurance that way, and then we can just nail things with Moonblast and Shadow Ball. And then finally, let's talk about the other two members of the team. We have Rillaboom and Sneasler. So Rillaboom here is an Assault Vest. It's Terra Fire to resist fire type attacks, and we have some Fake Out support with it. We have the Knockoff to remove some items, and Rillaboom is going to support both the Ogerpon and the Sneasler because I also have Grassy Glide on Ogerpon. Ogerpon will go for the Terastallization and become a fire type. It'll also get a +1 attack boost upon Terastallizing into its Hearthflame form. So a +1 Grassy Glide is going to benefit Ogerpon very nicely. And like I said, we do have the Sunny Day as well. So in a perfect matchup, Ogerpon, Torn, and Rillaboom all come to the same game, and we just get Ogerpon set up. And then, as far as Rillaboom goes for setting up Sneasler, Sneasler has the Unburden ability, so its speed will double once its item is consumed. And we have the Grassy Seed on Sneasler. Sneasler will get that defense boost. It'll have a full-powered Acrobatics, because Acrobatics will now go to full power from consuming the item, and Unburden will double its speed, which means we can go Terra Flying, get some stab on Sneasler's Acrobatics, do some big damage. We have Close Combat to just smack things around, and then we also have Dire Claw to play the RNG Roulette. Anyways, that's the team in a nutshell. Let's jump on in to the battles. Alright, we have a Kyogre team with Zapdos, Tornadus, Rillaboom, Gholdengo, and Hitmontop. Alright, my opponent has the Hitmontop, and I am a fan of that, that's for sure. Now, I have Sunny Day on my Tornadus, which might be very good to have in my back pocket. Ogerpon with its Terra and a Grassy Glide off, that might be really good into Kyogre too. So, I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna bring Ogerpon and Torn right out of the gate. The other thing too is if I get Sunny Day up, Ivy Cudgel is gonna do a wicked amount of damage, which I really like. And since I'm gonna try to play to the Sunny Day, I think I'm gonna bring Flutter Mane in the back, and I'm gonna bring Palkia. Palkia here is really nice for the Kyogre since it's 4 times resistant to water, so I do like that. And plus, Kyogre's other coverage moves typically tend to be Thunder and Ice Beam, which Palkia is neutral to, so I do really like my Palkia for that. Now, one thing I kind of wish is that it was AV instead of Choice Specs, but I have the Assault Vest on the Rillaboom, so not much I can do about that. But anyways, Specs Palkia, it can do a lot of damage, so let's see how this is going to work out. I am going to have to be very careful with the Gholdengo, especially if it drops its Ghost typing, because Flutter Mane won't be doing much to it with either Icy Wind or Moonblast, and if it drops that Ghost typing, well then Shadow Ball is not going to be super effective either, so I do have to be very careful about that. But the nice thing about the Ogerpon is the Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel does hit it for super effective damage. So it's going to be Rillaboom Zapdos. Alright. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect Ogerpon this turn. I have the Cobra Cloak on my Tornadus, but I really don't want to lose access to the Sunny Day right out of the gate. So I think I'm going to Spiky Shield, and honestly, I think I'm just going to protect to see what they do. If they set Tailwind with Zapdos, great. If they go for Electric type damage with Zapdos, not as great, but I can always switch Tornadus out and preserve it, and I can always keep I can always bring in Palkia too, because Palkia would be neutral to that. If they don't set Tailwind and they go for damage, great. I can always Terra with Ogerpon, turn into a fire type, and then go for the big damage into the Rillaboom. The nice thing though too is I do have the Covert Cloak on Torn, so I don't have to worry about Fake Out. I'm just worried about a 1-2 punch into the Torn, so we're just going to protect this turn just to be careful on the Fake Out side. And I think what I might actually want to do is that I might want to actually go for the Zapdos instead of the Rillaboom. I think I might want to do that. They're going to Volt Switch off of the Zapdos slot, so I think I Tailwind and I Ivy Cudgel into the Zapdos, and I don't think I need my Terra off of either Flutter Mane or Palkia, so I think I'm going to go for the Terra Fire, and I'm going to go for the Tailwind right here just to make sure that we're faster than the Zapdos. I'm not 100% sure where this Ogerpon falls out to the Zapdos, so they're going to switch the Rillaboom out. Alright, if this is Kyogre, great. I can Sunny Day if Tornadus lives. So I do get the +1 attack boost from going for my Terra, and on top of that, the Ivy Cudgel is going to do some major damage. Maybe Zapdos goes for Hurricane into Ogerpon this turn and leaves Tornadus alone. And if they do, great. So getting the +1 attack boost is going to be really nice since the rain is going to weaken Ivy Cudgel's power, but I also have Terra boosting me as well. So at least there is that. I kind of wish I called the hard switch and gone for the Sunny Day instead, because then this would have just been a straight knockout. But that's alright. That's a lot of damage to the Zapdos. They're going to go for the Volt Switch into Torn, but Torn gets to live one more turn. If this is a Rillaboom, what I can do is I can protect with both of these Pokemon and then bring in the Sunny Day the next turn. Or alternatively, what I do is I protect Tornadus and I hard switch into Palkia. And then that way I have Ogerpon in the back just in case they have the Golden Go. Ogerpon is my best answer into Golden Go right now, so I do want to keep that healthy. So there is the Rillaboom. I'm going to protect Tornadus here, and I think I'm just going to hard switch into Palkia. And then this way too. We're in an alright position, because I can always... You know what? I think what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to Spiky Shield Ogerpon, and I'm going to switch Torn out into Palkia, because they can always Grassy Glide me next turn, and I'd rather not deal with that. Depending on how much speed investment they have into the Rillaboom, that could be bad for Torn. Yeah. I think that's okay, because the other thing, too, is if I preserve Torn and protect Ogerpon, I can always bring in a late-game Tailwind if I need it. So that is the other thing, too. Plus, I do have the Grassy Glide, which they haven't seen yet off the Ogerpon. So, Kyogre's going to switch. Alright. That's fine. And that's also cool that Palkia is floating because of the terrain. Alright, so they bring in their own Tornadus. Alright. That's fair. Now, I'm going to dodge the Fake Out with Ogerpon. Palkia's going to take it. That's fine. Fake Out into Torn does make sense. Alright. I'm going to go for a knockoff with Ogerpon. And I think what I'm going to do is... I think I'm going to double up into that slot, actually. I think I'm going to knock off and Spacial Rend. which should be alright, because I think what they're going to do now is they're going to set the Tailwind, and if they do, that's rather unpleasant, but I still have at least one more turn of Tailwind after this turn, so if I have to switch in Flutter Mane, I can do that, and I can start going for some speed control with the Icy Wind, in theory. We'll see what happens. The nice thing, too, is Flutter Mane's also Ghost type, so I don't have to worry about Fake Out if Rillaboom does survive. Which I would prefer to get rid of the Rillaboom now, and then that way I just take away their Fake Out pressure. The nice thing, too, is we now know there's no Golden Go, so that does provide a little bit of insurance for my Ogerpon. And since Rillaboom is now gone, too, I don't have to worry about the Grassy Terrain and Grassy Glide combination for picking off Tornadus. So there is that working in my favor. Now, it's going to be Zapdos who comes in here. Is this the last turn of Grassy Terrain? It is, and it's also the last turn of my Tailwind. I'm going to knock off into the Zapdos, and I'm going to Spacial Rend into the Torn. I'm going to go for some big damage there. This Tornadus is probably going to be a bit faster than Ogerpon, because I'm not max speed investment on this Ogerpon, so I might take up Leak Wind, which could be unpleasant, but I have Palkia now, so now that I know there's no Golden Go, I do have Palkia to help deal with that Kyogre, so there is that. And they still haven't seen the Sunny Day, so I have that card up my sleeve there too. So here comes the Terra. It is going to be who? It is it's Zapdos. All right, Terra Electric. All right, so I should be all right here. Because there's rain on the field, maybe it's the thunder coming my way. I'm gonna take a taunt. That's fine. I'm going for raw damage with Ogerpon here, and I was right. It is thunder. Into Palkia though. All right, that's a lot of damage. A lot of damage I don't want to deal with, especially since that did paralyze Palkia. That said, we do get rid of Zapdos here, which is nice, and the rain is still on the field, so we don't have to worry about that disappearing right away. Oh, Scarf Zapdos. All right, that explains too why they did outspeed. Yeah, that does explain why they went for the Volt Switch. I mean, Zapdos, I don't remember Zapdos' base speed. I think it's 100. So yeah, that does explain why they did outspeed both, with the Tailwinds canceling each other out. Now, they do have a turn to Tailwind, which I do have to be very careful about. But I think what I can do is I can bring in Flutter Mane and preserve Ogerpon. How many turns of rain do we have? 1. All right, and I can't Spiky Shield, so you know what? How many turns of Tailwind do they have left, too? They have 2. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to bring in Flutter. I'm going to hope Palkia can take this. I'm also going to hope Palkia doesn't get paralyzed. That's the big thing. Palkia took a lot of damage off that Thunder, which I do have to be very careful about. But we're going to keep Ogerpon safe. If we can get rid of this rain, that'll be nice too, because that's less damage output on Kyogre. And if I can get the Sunny Day up, great. That's still enough to bring me down to my Sash. That's gross. That's a crit, that's why. Okay. Palkia did take it. Palkia just needs to survive and hit the Kyogre back. So we are going to connect with the Spacial Rend. That's great. That's a lot of damage in a Kyogre. That's just now gone. Rain has stopped, and this is their last turn of Tailwind. I'm going to protect Flutter Mane, and then I'm just going to Moonblast the Kyogre next turn, and we'll go for the Spacial Rend. My opponent does forfeit. So, very good match. I'm very happy with how that played out. The Scarf Zapdos was really nice tech. The Terra Electric Thunder did wicked amounts of damage into my Palkia, which I'm very glad that I was neutral to that. If I had Terra Water on this thing like I was originally considering, that would have been really bad. And yeah, I also didn't get to pull off the Grassy Glide into Kyogre, but the tech was there for the Ogerpon, so I'm just happy with how that boiled out. Good game to my opponent. Alright, we have a Calyrex Ice Rider team with Primarina, Incineroar, Rillaboom, Farigiraf, and Flutter Mane. So tell me you want a Trick Room without telling me you want Trick Room. So Tornadus, probably not going to be doing me any favors with the Tailwind. Rillaboom and Ogerpon, I do really like. I can't fake out into them, though. And I can't Grassy Glide either because of the Farigiraf. But, I think Ogerpon should be able to do a lot of damage to that Calyrex if we can deal with it. So, yeah, alright. I think we're going to lead Palkia. Palkia and Flutter Mane might be really nice. I'm going to bring Rillaboom and Ogerpon in the back. And hopefully we should be okay. I do have knockoff on both of these guys, so knockoff should knockoff should help remove some items, which could be good here. This has the potential to be really bad, though, with the amount of fake out they have. And if they get Trick Room, this team that I'm using is meant to be a little bit faster. So Flutter Mane and Farigiraf. Okay. So, yeah, this is a little bit awkward for Palkia because Palkia would rather not be a dragon in front of Flutter Mane. And I don't get any bonus damage modifiers. Okay, I am going to double into the Farigiraf. I'm going to go for the Terra Fairy right out of the gate. And I'm going to Moonblast as well. I'm going to Moonblast and Spacial Rend. And the nice thing here, too, is while Farigiraf does have some good bulk, the choice specs Spacial Rend should be really nice. Now, plot twist, the Flutter Mane goes for Trick Room. I can definitely see that. That could be the real plot twist right there. So here comes the Dazzling Gleam. So that is going to break my sash on Flutter. But we're going to get the Moonblast off. And Spacial Rend is going to connect, which is delightful. We take out the Farigiraf. Now, their Flutter Mane was faster than mine, so that's a little bit of a problem. Unless we just speed tied. Actually, we probably just speed tied because my Flutter Mane is max speed. Yeah. That's good to know, actually. So Incineroar could fake out my Flutter Mane, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go for the Spacial Rend into the Instant, and I'm gonna Shadow Ball into their Flutter Mane. So there's the fake out into Palkia. Makes a lot of sense. They're not scarfed because I just outsped them, so unfortunately it's just a straight up Flutter Mane smackdown, and they are going to knock out both Palkia and Flutter Mane this turn, which is bad. That Incineroar has all of its HP, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Grassy Glide the Flutter Mane, and I'm going to fake out the Incineroar, and then that way too, Incineroar can't Parting Shot my Ogerpon. Now, one thing that I'm really disappointed about is that I did just lose my Terra. I needed it to survive the Dazzling Gleam, don't get me wrong, but I don't like that I lost that. Their Flutter Mane is in very easily KO range, which is nice. So, I'm going to Grassy Glide the Flutter Mane, and I'm going to fake out into the Incineroar. And the other thing, too, is Rillaboom does have the high horsepower, so depending on what the Calyrex does, because I feel like that's their fourth Pokemon, I could just Ivy Cudgel them. Now, the Calyrex could pop a Terra and go for Trick Room, and if it does, that's really bad for both of these Pokemon. But I can high horsepower. I could also double knockoff if I wanted to. Yeah, there's the Calyrex. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to double into both. I think I'm going to double into the Calyrex. They might, if they go for Protect, that's unpleasant, but I'm going to Ivy Cudgel, and I'm going to Grassy Glide, and if they go Terra Water, I get super effective damage on that at least. So I did think this was coming, and I did just reveal the Grassy Glide on the Ogerpon, so oh, it's Terra Dark. Okay. Huh. Alright, I was expecting something completely different, but we'll go for the Grassy Glide into you, and we'll get the Ivy Cudgel off. And I can still go for the... Ooh, thank you, Ogerpon. No, this is just a Glacial Lance. It's really bad for me. But, yeah, alright. Incineroar is going to take a wicked amount of damage and recoil from that Flare Blitz. Yeah, alright. So it is just a Glacial Lance, so... That just shows how bulky Calyrex can be, and honestly... I probably should have high horsepowered. Yeah, I probably should have high horsepowered into the Incineroar at some point, but my opponent does get me there. They handle that really nicely there, especially with the fact that I did take out their Farigiraf turn 1. It was unfortunate that we did have that speed tie with the Flutter Manes. It's also really unfortunate that I didn't pick up the KO with the Shadow Ball, but I kind of had a hunch that it might have been sashed. But anyways, still a very good game at the end of the day, so well played to my opponent. Alright, we have a Terapagos team with Tornadus, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Rillaboom, and Urshifu. So my opponent has 2 grass types, so Ogerpon's going to have a nice time. The Terapagos is going to be a problem because Terra Shell, when Terapagos is at full HP, takes the first attack that would do damage to it and makes it resisted, so that could be bad. And then Terraform 0, which is its ability when it goes into Stellar form, that removes terrain and weather, so that could be bad too. I've never played a Terapagos, not gonna lie. I'm really curious to see what it does. So yeah, let's figure this out. I think I'm going to bring the Rillaboom. I think I want to bring Torn as well. Torn does have the Covert Cloak, so I don't have to worry too much about Fake Out pressure that way. Ogerpon does have a little bit of trouble with the Incineroar, so I have knockoff on it. I might have to change that up for Superpower just to try to get around Incineroar. Yeah, I might have to do that. I think I bring Palkia, and honestly, Sneasler doesn't look bad either. I think I'm going to bring the Sneasler. Yeah, because I have Close Combat for Incin. I have Terra Flying boosted Acrobatics if I need it for Rilla and Amoonguss. If I get into that nice situation with Terapagos and I don't have to worry about Terra Shell, I have Close Combat for that as well. But let's see, it is Tornadus and Urshifu, so it's Rapid Strike, Torn, and Urshifu. So I think what I want to do is I want to fake out the Ursh, and I think I want to... I think they switch, to be completely honest. Now, a Close Combat or a U-turn could be bad, so I think I'm just going to double into it. I think I'm going to fake out Air Slash. So we'll get a little bit of damage off into that. We get some damage off into the Urshifu with the Air Slash as well if we connect. Now, I don't like that I took the taunt, but that's alright at the end of the day. Urshifu is a huge problem, so it's just good to have that gone. And Tornadus can always go for a little bit more of an offensive route right now. I'm going to try to get some damage off into the Terapagos. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna switch the Rillaboom out just in case they go for the unless they go for the Terra right away. Now, the other thing that I do have to be weary of is the fact that, you know what? What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna keep Rillaboom switching out into Palkia, but I'm gonna just Air Slash into the Terapagos. And then that way, if they do remove the grassy terrain, great. I can bring in Sneasler. And then I can go for a Close Combat into that and switch Rillaboom in. And then that way, I get my grassy terrain back. My opponent is going for the Terra right here. And I don't think it's the Torn. Nope, it is the Terapagos. So they're going to get rid of the grassy terrain. Which, I'm more than okay with that. Because if Tornadus gets to do a little bit of damage to Terapagos, great. So we do get that. We might pick up Flinch. We don't see anything off. It's just the Bleak Wind, so no Prankster off of the Torn. Palkia is going to take a speed drop, which is rather unfortunate, but we did pick up the Flinch, so I think that's a fair trade, all things considered. I have the Spacial Rend, which I would love to get off into the Torn by chance. This is my last turn of Taunt as well, so maybe what I'll do, I'm going to Spacial Rend into the Terapagos, and I'm going to Air Slash their Torn. And then that way, too, if they have a Focus Sash, great. I can do a little bit of damage to them. They're just going to protect Terapagos. They're going to go for the Tailwind this turn. So this is my last turn of Taunt, so I don't mind getting the damage off into their Torn. I should have doubled into the Torn now that I'm thinking about it, but that's all right. Now, they could just taunt me again, so what I might do is I'll go for the Spacial Rend. They don't have any boosts or anything like that into the Terapagos. I'm going to protect my Torn this turn, and if I can connect with that Terapagos with the Spacial Rend, great. I am very curious to see what a Choice Specs boosted Spacial Rend will do to this thing. That's for sure. Yeah, so hopefully the speed drop is not going to bite me. It might. It might bite me in the butt there, but we'll get our Protect off because they did just go for the Taunt. So that was nice. So they're going to go for a Calm Mind. Not the greatest. Not going to lie. That is a little concerning, but I can always get this big damage off into the Terapagos. Yeah, that's respectable. And I think what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna Spacial Rend into the Torn because I think they just protect here. And if they do, great. I'm gonna Air Slash into the Torn as well. So there's just a Bleak Wind right there. I'm gonna hang in there now. Terra Starstorm is gonna be enough to pick off Torn. Will Palkia survive this? No, Palkia does not survive that. Now, I do get my Grassy Terrain back in, and I do get my Rillaboom in. So, or rather, I get my Sneasler and my Grassy Terrain in at the same time. So Sneasler's going to get some speed. I think what I do here is I go for damage into that Terapagos. I think it's in Acrobatics range. So the question is will Sneasler be able to outspeed the Torn with its Unburden boost? Because I really want to get rid of that Torn, and I really want to fake out that Terapagos. So let's just take a quick look at this here. Speed-wise, I'm at 172. Oh, I did not switch the nature on this. Oh, that is a very bad thing to realize right now. Great. Okay. Terraflying. Acrobatics. Fake out. Into you. Let's go. Okay, they're going to switch to the Terapagos. All right. I feel a little bit better about that. Excuse me. Now, it's a Moongus coming in. That I don't like as much. But that said, the amount of damage I can do into the Amoonguss with this Terraflying boosted Acrobatics is going to be nice too. And I really want to get rid of the Torn first. If I get rid of the Torn, no more Tailwind. So it's Rocky Helmet, which is good to know. And I'm very glad I did not go for the close combat here. That would have been rather unfortunate. So, Sneasler can be put to sleep by Spore, which is bad. I think they Rage Powder with the Terapagos, or the Amoonguss, to save the Terapagos. But, so, I'm gonna, I'm gonna Acrobatics right away into the, Amoonguss, and I'm going to knock off, no, I'm gonna Grassy Glide into the Terapagos because I can't be redirected. So I'm going to just straight up Grassy Glide into them. So they're going to go for the Rage Powder. This Acrobatics is going to do an insane amount of damage. Terapagos hangs in there. That's a little bit concerning, but the nice thing here is we're going to get rid of the Amoonguss. No, we're not. I lied. Lying is bad. Lying is very bad. Or very bad. But anyways. Depending on how much damage this does to my Assault Vested Rillaboom, that could be really bad. Alright. I think what I do here... I think I need to get rid of that Amoonguss. I'm getting a little bit of HP back from the grassy terrain, and I have 3 more turns of it. So I think what I do is I knock off into the Amoonguss because of that. And then I think I just Grassy Glide. And the other thing, too, is I think they needed to go for damage because depending on how much damage the Rocky Helmet did, I think my Rillaboom was at about full HP when it took that Star Storm and it brought it down to 130. So I think it's going to be a very close amount of damage, but I think I'm okay here. I'm going to Grassy Glide into the Terapagos. And it's not enough to KO it. This thing does have the bulk. But the good thing here is Terra Starstorm becomes super effective when you're Terastallized, or when your opponent is Terastallized. So I should be in KO range for another Grassy Glide. So we do pick it up. That was concerning. Terapagos does have a really good amount of bulk, and I think the turn they protected, I think they had to go for damage, or their next course of action might have been better to go for a Calm Mind. Because depending on what the damaging move on Amoonguss was, if they had one, they could have potentially done super effective damage to Rillaboom. So I kind of see where they were going with their thought process with the Protect, because if they had gone Protect and I went into the Terapagos, Amoonguss could have potentially just Pollen Puffed me or Clear Smog me, which would have been super effective damage, which could have been really bad. But yeah, I think Calm Mind or Terra Starstorm into my Rillaboom would have been really good for my opponent there. Because if they had gotten the special attack boost, then they definitely would have picked up the KO into Rillaboom. But anyways, it worked out in the end for me. I'm very happy with how that played out. Sneasler did a lot of damage, despite the fact, too, that I didn't realize that I had the wrong nature on it. That was meant to be jolly. Yeah, and I think that was gentle. Anyways, enough about that, though. Good game to my opponent. Hey, thank you guys so much for checking out this Palkia and Ogerpon team in action. We ended up going 2-1, and all 3 of our games had some really good back and forth. So overall, I am fairly happy with how the team ended up playing today. In game 1, we ended up getting to play up against a Kyogre team, and Ogerpon did apply some very good pressure. Now, we didn't get to go for the Sunny Day and Ivy Cudgel tech, but we did have it in our back pocket. Unfortunately, I just couldn't maneuver Tornadus into a safe spot, but we did have Tornadus with 4 HP, so I really had to be careful there, but it was ready to go. I just unfortunately didn't get a chance to actually pop it off, but it would have definitely made that match a lot easier. We still ended up winning there. Ogerpon did some really good damage to my opponent's Rillaboom and Zapdos, and Palkia also did a tremendous amount of work. Now, fortunately, my opponent brought their own Rillaboom, so I didn't have to bring mine. Flutter Mane just came in to eat a water spout for Ogerpon, which Palkia ended up surviving after already taking a Terra Electric boosted Thunder from the Zapdos. So Palkia did what it needed to do. It took that water spout and then it clapped back with a Spacial Rend into the Kyogre. And since my opponent's Tailwind had expired and they were staring down my paralyzed Palkia and Flutter Mane with the 1 HP from the Focus Sash, and then having the Ogerpon and the Torn in the back, my opponent did end up canceling the battle there, so we did end up getting the win that way. And then in game 2, we ended up playing against that Calyrex Ice Rider team, and there was a lot of back and forth. Our Flutter Manes ended up speed tying, so I did have to pop the Terra Fairy on my Palkia if I wanted it to live an attack from the Flutter Mane. And fortunately, we did get rid of the Farigiraf off the field immediately with the double up of Moonblast and Choice Specs boosted Spacial Rend. Unfortunately, though, on the second turn, we weren't able to pick up the KO into the Flutter Mane. I did win the speed tie, so I did get the Shadow Ball off into theirs, but they did hang in there with a tiny little sliver, and Incineroar came in, faked out my Palkia, and their Flutter Mane was able to finish off both of my Pokemon with a Dazzling Gleam. Now, Ogerpon and Rillaboom did come in there, and they had the potential to do a tremendous amount of damage. The only problem was I had already burned my Terra, so I couldn't use it on my Ogerpon, which would have been really nice for when the Calyrex Ice Rider did come to the battle. So we did pick off the Flutter Mane with a Grassy Glide off of Ogerpon, which was very satisfying. We faked out their Incineroar back, and then despite doubling into the Calyrex, we just didn't quite have enough firepower between the Ivy Cudgel and the Grassy Glide. Now, if I had Wood Hammer, might have been a little bit different. My opponent went Terra Dark on their Calyrex as well, so they were still neutral to both of those hits, and the Calyrex did live with a tiny little sliver, but unfortunately, the Flare Blitz off the Incineroar was enough to just seal the deal for Rillaboom, and Glacial Lance becoming a single target into my Ogerpon was definitely not a picnic for our little masked friend at that. And then finally, we ended up having our third game against a Terapagos, and man, that was wild. The nice thing here was I was able to go for the fake out into their Urshifu and then go for the Air Slash into it to just immediately get it off of the field. But the opponent that I was playing against did then bring in a little weird. But anyways, my opponent then brought in their Terapagos, and the Terapagos, whew, the bulk on that thing, whew, that was unpleasant to deal with, but we ended up slowly taking down my opponent's support for the Terapagos. We took out their Tornadus. Palkia did a lot of damage to the Terapagos, despite the Terapagos getting a +1 from its Calm Mind. Palkia's Spacial Rend did do a considerable amount of damage, but then just the boiling down to the 2v1 of their Amoonguss and their Terapagos into my Rillaboom, that was a little bit scary because Terapagos was doing a lot of damage after they had switched it out and reset their stats. They were still doing a considerable amount of damage. Now, the fortunate thing too was Sneasler did weaken the Amoonguss and almost brought it down to a straight knockout. But yeah, the fact that Sneasler didn't knock it out was not the greatest, because then it boiled down to this awkward situation where Rillaboom then had to deal with both the Terapagos and the Amoonguss. We ended up knocking them both out with Rillaboom, but we only had about 40 HP by the end of the battle, which was a little bit concerning. But overall, like I said, I'm fairly happy with how the games went. We had some very good back and forth. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of the team down in the comments section below. If you want to see some more information about the team as well, I will have a PokePaste linked in the description below as well. Anyways, see you later.